Okay, the next thing I'm going to try and do on this engine rebuild is lap the valve seats and the valves themselves. So for that, I have some lapping compound. There's two different grits. There's a 120 coarse grit, and then there's a 280 finer grit for finishing that up. And then I have some valve lapping tools, and they're basically just suction cups that you stick on the valve and you spin the compound between the valve and its seat, and hopefully clean it up enough that it seals really nice. And so I'll give that a shot. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is lube up my valve stem or the valve so that it can spin in its guide without wearing. Get a little bit of motor oil on there. Slide that into its guide. There we go. And I'll grab a little bit of the coarse compound, grinding compound, or lapping compound I should say. Pry this guy open with a screwdriver. So this is what my lapping compound looks like. A little bit of like a gel with some grit in there. And so take my valve and smear a bit of this compound around the edge. We got that all in there. Set this valve in its place. Stop that for a bit. And I'll grab the appropriate sized lapping tool. Maybe a little bigger than that. Maybe not. Maybe this is the right size. Don't know if this needs to be wet or not. I'll just give that a little bit of extra suction. I'll press that on there. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this all that well. I'm just going to spin this in its seat. You can hear the sound change as it kind of moves in and out of there. It sounded really grindy at first, and then it got a lot cleaner sounding. I don't know if that's just because the compound got out of the way or whether that cleaned up that fast. Give another go here. I think it's just because the grit's getting out of the way. Yeah, just gotta give it a tap, get that grit back in the seat. Don't know how much you have to do this, but let's just take a look and see where we are so far. Give this a wipe. Compare that seat to the other one. It's coming. Looks like it needs quite a bit more yet, but I'll just keep going at it here for a little while and see what kind of progress I can make. Okay, I think this is working pretty good. You can kind of see on the left exhaust valve seat that it's a little shinier and the ring's a little more distinct where it sits down. So I think it's doing its job, and it's even more apparent on the valves themselves. You can see on the left one, I got the right one there for comparison. The left one is cutting in pretty good. Shouldn't need much more with the coarse one, and I can move on to the fine one. And then once all those are done, I'll test it by pouring some solvent or something in there and see if it leaks through with the springs loaded. But the other thing I realized is that I can probably measure the seat diameter and seating width better on the valve itself now that I see where it's seating than on the head. I'm trying to do it on the head with the caliper, so I'll take those measurements from these from now on, and that should give me a better indication of what's actually going on there. Okay, now for a go with the finer 280 grit. Finish it off. Seems like it's harder to spin with the finer stuff in there. Maybe just gotta clean this off a little better. Got it to spin a little better with the finer grit. Just a little less pressure, I think, is the key. Okay, after going over it with the fine grit stuff, this is the result on the valve seat I did, and this is the one that hasn't been done yet. And see the difference in the valves themselves. This one just got the fine grit, and this one hasn't been started yet. And do that to all of them, and then they should seat pretty well. Okay, now that I have a better idea of where my seating surface is on these valves, now that it shows up better with this lapping, I'm gonna remeasure my seating surface diameters and see if they're within spec. So I want to be between 26.9 and 27.1 millimeters. So it looks like I might be just a little bit wide on my outside diameter. We'll see how my width looks. My width for the exhaust valves, I want to be between 0.5 and 1 millimeters. So I'm measuring a little over 1, almost 1.3, almost 1.4. So I wonder if that doesn't mean that these should be ground down. I'll have to look into that. Okay, we'll check the seating dimension specs on the inlet valve as well. So for this one I want to be between 30.9 and 31.1 millimeters. Looks like I'm at 31.4, so just a little high. Or maybe, yeah, somewhere around there, 31.3. And the width, same thing, 0.5 to 1 millimeter. Now about 1.3, 1.2. So I'm high there too. I don't know what to make of that. I'm going to do a little test to see if my valve lapping job was good enough to seal this. I got one valve in here. Put the springs in on the other side. I'll test all of them when my parts come, but because I don't have my valve stem seals yet, I'm just gonna do one for now just to see how this works. So I got that one in there. I'm gonna set this on top of this rag, and then I'm gonna pour a little kerosene or something down in here, and if it leaks out onto the rag, I'll know that it didn't seat well enough. Okay, my test is set up. If any of that kerosene in there leaks onto the rag below, I'll know I got an issue. let that sit for a while.